People, deluded. I'm back again. Good morning on this early Sunday, and I hope you're all doing well and safe. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Now it's the morning after the morning before. I want to say night before, but we kicked off the Premier League week. We played 12:30. People, we knew it was too good to be true. In it, if you don't know, Burnley won, Arsenal won. When we was in that, and now let's review it from a tactical point of view. Now, when we was in the game, and I see us take the lead with Aubameyang in the sixth minute. Apologies, that's a poor pronunciation. I thought, yo, all right, cool. It might be too good. It might not be too good to be true. Maybe the boys are switched on. We've got an early goal. We're kicking off the game week at 12:30. We all know as Arsenal fans how calamity is playing early. We've had a week off. But instead, after that, it's done, innit? We're still, the fans are talking about players looking lethargic, which some of it might be true. Them man there had a week off. Burnley played twice this week. Who look more energetic, and what does that tell you? You know what? Let me say positives before I continue. Two positives, within reason. Shout out to Callum Chambers. I think he had a good performance, and I did like the move which led to our goal. That's the only positives. There is no other positives. I think this game highlighted everything. First and foremost, playing well for 90 minutes. I think the thing that concerned me the most, people, I just said early goal, and I said it in my watch along. I think what scares me, and it's on Arteta to fix it, but it's down to these players and highlights their lack of street smartness. I said it in my live watch along in real time. Go back if you think I'm lying, people. When we took the lead, it's not that that's the worst thing to happen, but it was like it's almost unfamiliar territory. We were behaving like we didn't expect to take that lead, and we didn't know how to manage the game. And for me, considering that Burnley barely score goals, they ain't got the most expansive personnel. We've gone a goal up against a defensive system. They have to come on to you, sort of thing. They have to, that's what I was hoping for, that we could exploit the gaps in their team, and we didn't do that. Many people will say, we created enough. We didn't. I'm all for high percentages. The more you create, the more you score. Definitely with teams like this. Yes, we did have opportunities to tie up the game, and I'll get on to all of this throughout the course of this. Yes, off the top of my head, Pepe off the bench. Aubameyang could have got a second. Saka could have had a couple. Probably a couple of other men. Ceballos hit the post. Yeah, we did fashion chances, but we're not putting in the back of the net. And these chances are too far and beyond. By the end of the game, we were in double figures for shots. You go and look at it, shots on target. We had 3 shots on target. They had 5. If you don't hit the target, you cannot score. Just off the base of that, going into the game, I told you, look, I rate Nick Pope. I really rate Nick Pope. I just feel he's suspect at certain incidences, like you saw for him fumbling Aubameyang's goal, like you actually saw this week against Leicester running off his line. You didn't ask questions of him. The one question you asked of him, you saw how dodgy he was, how much you didn't test the keeper. And this was, even though we scored however many against Leicester, I said it then, you don't shoot, you don't score. I don't want to focus on fine margins. We need to have more shots at high volume. We need to create more chances. They're too far and beyond. I would say, is it a coincidence you brought on Pepe? Saka is still on. He's not having the best of games. Tierney's there. Ceballos is on. Is there any coincidence you had a sort of late flurry towards the end with, the penalty controversy and Ceballos hitting the post and things? So I don't think it's a game to blame Arteta. The only thing I will blame him is, fair enough, Willian deserves to start based on Leicester, and he wasn't bad, but I don't understand why Lacazette and Pepe didn't play. I don't understand why you left it with 20 minutes to go to actually bring on Pepe. Obviously, I thought you brought on Lacazette a bit too late. I think, you shouldn't have taken off Odegaard, and when you did, and then, you tried to play Willian as a 10, and then you hooked him. And I didn't mind the Partey one, but I don't understand how Xhaka stayed on the field. And I will say this, as much as I don't believe in scapegoating people, because for me, I can't listen. I can't tell you what to think. Depending on what you believe, you're either blaming Leno, blaming Xhaka, blaming Arteta, blaming the players. For me, it's everybody. It's a cocktail. This is what I'm talking about. We don't win or lose together. Of course, it's a fact of the referee. Of course, Saka, Aubameyang, these men should have put away their chances. And we should have killed the game in the first 20, in my opinion, just like in many games. But these are fine margins. This isn't playing well for 90 minutes for me. These are all fine margins. I'm not excusing it, but I just find it very frustrating as an Arsenal fan to sit here, and especially making content, to sit here and say to you, look, focusing on refs, focusing on if that shot goes in, it's another game. We can't keep doing this ifs and buts. At some point, we need to decide our fate. And again, it's all part of the collective. And what I will say, even Xhaka's mistake, which fundamentally at so level is why we've dropped 2 points. Away from that, did we do everything to win? It's the same way I said it against at the point of Ceballos making those mistakes against Benfica and so on and so forth, and even Aston Villa. You know, Cedric made the mistake. Did we do enough to get back in the game? No, because we didn't get anything. So, you know, while I don't think we should talk about them, definitely, but we shouldn't focus on them and act like we're playing well and we're hard done by. We've got players making mistakes, bad habits. We're not playing well for 90 minutes, and lo and behold, we're doing this. This is why we're sitting here, like against Wolves when it went Kalam, and saying we played well here and we did this. We need to play well for 90 minutes. And when I saw you lot take the lead after 6 minutes and not really know how to react after 84 minutes, when I keep seeing certain individual errors, it's going to be more of the same, is it not, people? On the topic of Granit Xhaka, yes, he has turned his form around and been all right, but these sort of players, him, David Luiz, who has no relevance because he done all right, you know, these players, they will let you. Bellerin, who has no relevance because he's not involved, they will let you down. This is why it's unhealthy to proclaim them as the messiahs after 3 games and overly critique them after 3 games. A lot of man shouldn't be at this club. For Granit Xhaka, he's done this twice in a week now. We got away with it, and you know, it is what it is. But you know, certain man just got these mistakes in him. I don't feel Arteta can account for that. He is playing him, but who else is being played? This is why this team is a mess. You know, we have not got levels personnel. You know, we've got players who can pass a ball, cross-field passes and whatnot, but we haven't got street-smart footballers. This is why we're in where we're at, you know. Again, the mistake is the mistake. It is what it is firmly in that regard. So I learned that we're not shooting enough. We can't break down low blocks. We can't manage a game. We can't manage a game for 90 minutes because there was periods, definitely the last 5-10 of the end of the half to when they scored, definitely large periods of the second half where we weren't in control. One of the teams that are probably the worst technical side, and you know what you're kind of getting with Burnley, look like they could score a lot of goals here, and that's something you lot are poor on. You know, the minute you go 1-0 up, you don't kill them. You know, it weren't really too much to speak about even when we was winning 1-0. You give people confidence, and they showed it against Villa. They showed it today, and you know, you lot are just pretenders, really and truly. You're not really. The Arsenal players, it's bare lip service, really and truly. So if we get into it, there's not really much I want to focus on a tactical point of view, people, really and truly. If I share my screen with you guys, people, on the topic of a low block, again, you saw Burnley were definitely a bit more expansive as the game went on, but we couldn't break down a 4-4-2. We knew exactly what to expect in that regards, people. We know they're going to get their we know it defensively, they're going to get 11 men behind the ball, be very narrow, compact, like you saw people when we was attacking, clear their lines and things like that. Burnley going forward, I did think they offered a lot more than I'm selling them, but I did feel they kind of lacked that ability, like their crosses weren't hitting a man, and you would have thought a decent cross could help them. So yeah, people, they didn't have much about them. Yes, Barnes could have nicked it at the end and Woods got an easy goal, but we know what we're getting with them, people. We know, you know, knockdowns, you know, he's going to win the first and second balls, and then he's going to bring his other players into play, whether that's the wide men or the midfielders, you know, win the first ball, knock it down for a runner. Example of that, people. But generally, Burnley had no ideas. If I make them, we had them in their half for large periods, as they had us. But if I make them come forward a bit and make it a bit more of a realistic 4-4-2 out of possession, people, I don't think the fullbacks were as expensive as that. I'm selling them short, but they had no ideas. They were doing that. I did think McNeil woke up more in the second half, but we knew what they were trying to do, people. We were trying to do the same thing. Tarkowski, you know, maybe it's just because Callum Chambers is back fit and things like that. Let me make a back four here, because we got one defender. Maybe they clocked Callum Chambers is playing. Let's go and ask him questions. But you saw it, people. They're just trying to hit. Tarkowski's just trying to hit balls into this channel in behind Chambers, and I felt he was equal to that. Second half, I did feel when McNeil went on the right-hand side, he made more of a problem. I think we kept Goodmanson quiet. Didn't see much from Loughton or Charlie Taylor, really, as expected, really and truly. But these games, it's about breaking down the blocks and killing them. Even though we scored 4 against Michael, I said it also. I said it then. We didn't test him. You know, 2 of those goals came from dead ball scenarios. Really and truly. So I liked our goal. Again, not to scale. Again, I liked the goal we scored. Well, like I said, between Chambers' decent performance and the goal we scored, which was 5 or 6 passes, they're the only positives you can have. We've dropped 2 points. You know, it's more cheap goals conceded, more cheap points dropped. And like I said, you're sitting here listening to me waffle, and you are actually listening, giving me therapy, by letting me speak my thoughts. But as much as I'm talking about Burnley, if we forget who we played, you could say this for how many games this season, you know, we're making, and when we lose, it's the same mistakes. And those are now choices. Players are not choosing to learn from mistakes. The best centre midfield midfielders in the world, or the best centre mids in general in any league, whether they're world class or not, do things quickly, do things in less touches. You're not afforded that much time. If you want time, make it for yourself. Certain players that made mistakes cannot do that. But one good example, again, not to scale, was obviously Thomas Partey showed Xhaka how to receive the ball. And Thomas Partey did kind of go down the toilet in the second half. But like you saw, he's received the ball. He's actually played it to Xhaka. Xhaka's given it back to him. Again, not to scale. They've played a 1-2 people. If you lot remember, Williams now got it. And Williams driven forward. And to be honest with you, I'm too angry to remember what actually happened past that. But as you lot remember, just one positive was William driving with the ball forward, people. You know, he's driven. I did like, again, I want to paint the picture. Just to say this is Odegaard. Odegaard was making a run in line with him and it was taking runners away. You know, and other things were going down. Fundamentally, it's eventually falling at the feet of Aubameyang, who, as you lot saw yourselves, people, you know, he made a yard for himself and he found the near post, which, again, Pope should be doing better. But, again, that's what I wanted to see, quick moves. Instead, we didn't do that. We was very slow. We was in front. I did think we allowed them to grow into the game, people, because like past the 20-minute mark, they were further up the field than I expected. You had their midfielders there, you had their wingers there. You know, they still were getting men behind the ball. One of the centre strikers was dropping slightly lower, and Tarkowski was still just trying to play long passes. But generally, I think they huffed and puffed a bit more. I just think they, you know, they were getting forward. They were just lacking in general quality to cause us problems in that regards, people. If we look at that's from Burnley, so I don't really think Burnley had much to do. They've scored because of we've given it to them. Like, we can't not speak about that mistake. If I put Leno in there now, again, I think personally, like many of the mistakes, like against Wolves, like against Villa, like against many of them, Southampton, there's a sequence. Fundamentally, for me, it's Xhaka's fault. Xhaka, we're playing out from the back. You know, these things are going to happen playing out from the back, but we're playing out from the back. You know, Leno's fault is probably giving him the ball, not going long. And again, I'm not on the football field, but again, because Xhaka did that, did somebody say there's time? I don't know. They're the things I would look at Leno. For me, it's not Leno's fault. We're playing out from the back. The midfield is shown for the ball like Partey. He should know better. Like I tell you, look, Xhaka's the best midfielder in the world when he's got 100 years on the football. Less time than that is a problem. And, you know, I don't think Xhaka's as worse as people make out, but he's made 2 mistakes in a week. And I have to say, Arteta, you know, again, next season, I think we're really going to see, because you're not going to get sacked. But again, I don't know if you're rocking with Xhaka out of a byproduct because you have no choice, or you genuinely love him based on how you reintegrated him. And he has had good moments. But again, all of these players have good moments. When it's crunch time, they let you down. And when you have a Burnley result and you have this, and you've got like 5, 6, 7 players like this, you're wondering why you're dropping so many points. And you've made Xhaka central to your team. I see why. You know, things do run through him. He can play at football. But if things have to run through Granit Xhaka to take the team to where you want it to be, we're in problems. You know, if that guy is not gone out of this football club or a squad player, it's a problem. And that's not just Xhaka. That's basically every midfielder apart from Thomas Partey, really, central midfielder. It's not good enough. And for me, Xhaka's really got to fix up. He does a lot of lip service. He does a lot of, to be fair, he came out and owned his mistake, but he does a lot of lip service. He's the first one to start speaking when we've got a positive result, because he gets a lot from the fans. But this sums up Xhaka. And, you know, you look at the mistakes he's made since he's joined this club. It's telling, innit? It's like, it's boring now. Anyways, people, and it's come from our counter-attack, really, that's broken down. Leno's in possession, people, you know, as you lot can remember, again, not to scale, we're still being blue because we're the away team. Xhaka's shown for the ball, people. Again, not to scale, let's make it here because it's an exaggeration. Xhaka's shown for the ball. Now, for me, you know, if you lot remember, I'm fast forwarding a bit because Marie's actually shown for it. You remember Marie showed for it, and then Marie's played it back. Well, when Marie's played it to Tierney, you know, initially Leno's gone Tierney. I mean, yeah, gone Marie, sorry. They've gone Tierney. Tierney's played it back. Then it's gone to Leno, people. So just if you wanted a chronological order. Now, Xhaka, again, not to scale, but just to make it look a bit more attractive, people, you know, just to paint the example a tiny bit more. Let's put some red shirts on here. Now, what I think, let's do it with a 4-4-2. Let's just say they're pressing on a realistic thing. Marie was probably like here. Let's say they've pressed with a front 4 now. They're 2 wingers and their strikers as well as their midfielders. Now, for me, you know, Leno's the eyes and ears. You lot that watch me, I always say back five, because I believe it's a unit. Leno is the eyes and ears. Now, He might have said something, but the first thing is communication. Now, the first thing, Leno, we're playing out from the back. That's what they're told, and we do it quite well. These mistakes will happen in isolation more often than not. What I think Leno could have done is, cleared it, gone long, because you can see, you got eyes in ears. Xhaka can't, Xhaka on the best of days doesn't want to look over his shoulder. He can't see behind his eyes, behind his head. So I think we could have either gone long or you could have told a man on. Xhaka's shown for the ball. That's why it's his fault. He's shown for the ball. You look to your left, you look to your right, you see what's around you. Basic central midfielders. This is why it's Xhaka's fault. He's then played the ball. And what has shagged Xhaka even more? A heavy first touch. Again, to be a good midfielder, any competent midfielder, you're aware of your surroundings. Second of all footballers, much less midfielders, you're told the importance of a first touch, how much that can buy you time and get you out of things, especially if you want to play out of danger here. His first touch is baggy. It's not helped him at all, people. And then what hasn't helped him, he's obviously looking down and he's seen his shirt. He's nonchalantly tried to play it with his right foot. And then as you saw, this is what you get just from pressing. You'll get a couple of goals like this a season. Obviously, again, not to scale. I can't get it right to scale, people. But as you lot can imagine, Xhaka's tried a nonchalant pass. He's looking down. There's no effort. And he's put it in the back of the net. That's where we've shagged ourselves. Now, again, I don't want to make this about the referee, because the referee, we should have had a penalty. There's no way around it. We should have had a penalty. I don't want to make this about Xhaka as much as I feel Xhaka has cost us, because we know Xhaka shouldn't have done this. But between the penalty, Xhaka's mistake, Pepe, Saka, Aubameyang potentially needing to score, for me, that's scapegoating. For me, Xhaka deserves all the blame and all the music, in the same way them man there deserve it for not scoring, and Arteta for some of his decisions. But for me, we don't win, lose or draw alone. It's all part of a factor. And with respect to Xhaka's mistake, which you can control, I can't control refereeing. We know they're against us. How many of you have played Sunday League? We're told play to the whistle. We're told forget the ref. We're told stop playing to the ref. I know the refereeing in this league is a joke. I'm livid. It's making my blood boil how we never got that penalty. But the variables we can control, we don't control them well. Not making stupid mistakes like we've just spoken about there, people. Killing off the game in the first 10 or so minutes. Because really, again, you didn't exploit Nick Pope. You didn't break down that unit. You didn't pull apart that low block. These are things you know about going into the game. And it's getting boring saying the same things in day out. We're always focusing on fine margins. And as I said yesterday, if you're always focusing on the fine margins as to why you've lost the game, surely there's something you're not doing. I'm not saying these other external factors are not things, but I'm of the belief, first and foremost, you need to take accountability. You need to look at what you could have done better, because take away the refereeing decision. Did we do all we can to get a result? People say we had chances. Look, the devil's in the detail. Double figures for chances. How many hit the effing target? You can't score without hitting the target. We're not creating enough chances. I felt sorry for Odegaard as well, because again, people, I think Odegaard's hiding. I'm not going to lie to you lot. We ain't really got much time for it. It's like we've let Mesut Ozil go and brought in the exact same guy. I do think he's hiding. I do think he's moving a bit soft, for want of better phrases, but we're not finding him. And I told you this was going to happen. In the same way it's happened when Odegaard and Smith Rowe have been there, it's happened. There was incidences, people, where we just looked so imbalanced. It's better if I do the back line of theirs first, because it makes it easier for me to see, really. But again, that's their back four, five including the keeper, where I'm going to get to after this left back. Yeah, people, Aubameyang's not going to put his back towards goal. He's doing that from early, where his goal basically come from. You saw Aubameyang was in wide areas, people. Bukayo Saka was coming off the flanks. There's already imbalance. For me, I felt sorry for Odegaard, because maybe it's a bit of positional indiscipline, but he's popping up here, there and everywhere. And the central midfielders, initially, as you lot saw, not to scale, but again, let's just say Xhaka is here and Partey is on the other side, people. That ball over the top was there a couple of times. I did think we was doing it too often, but it was there a couple of times. But generally, it's not going to happen too many. Our centre mids have got to want to play it. You're seeing Odegaard, like with some of our wingers sometimes in general games, receiving it there. You've got Aubameyang here. Willian is coming very narrow. To be fair to you, Tierney is providing the width there. But for me, you can see the gaps in our team. Aubameyang's trying to do that. You've got our central midfielders. So you've got Willian coming inside, you got Saka, Odegaard's popping up here, there and everywhere, and he isn't in the game, but sometimes he's evidently showing for the ball, people. Like, if I just bring these guys back in, he's you see it sometimes. As much as I feel he's hiding, I did think he's not being found the ball because he's evidently asking for it in the spots. And they're not finding him. So again, players don't have the ability to consistently find their man. And also he's not taking up the right areas. But generally, I'm seeing him receive on the halfway line. Williams getting sucked inside. Aubameyang's on the last shoulder. Saka is there. Chambers, to be fair, is trying to overlap. Tierney's providing some width. You've got our midfielders. And again, you've got our centre-half slightly behind. If we just put our midfielders in here, people, Odegaard here, midfield slightly further forward, Williams slightly further forward, because then we can bring in our centre halves, people, and then you could see how the game kind of is. And I see this as imbalanced, people. There was a couple of times Burnley could have broke. There was a couple of times they had us under the cosh. For me, the last 5 minutes of the first half, last 5-10, and the opening exchanges of the second, probably the first 15, were under it. But you can see how there's imbalance. Nobody's intelligent. It's like a thing. Aubameyang might run here. Nobody clocks. Let me run there, or while they're all focusing on them, let me run in behind. It's no Pepe missed a sitter, but it's no coincidence. You injected some real width in this team. We done something I say done something. We didn't win, but it's more of the same, people. It's more of the same. If I look at my own notes quickly, people, what's the time? Because it's soon Arsenal versus. A man said Arsenal, Newcastle versus West Bromwich Albion, Maitland-Niles versus Joe Willett. This is for something else, people. Again, interesting points. These are just, I'm going to bring a new sort of thing. I'm going to do DG hot takes of the week. But again, for me, if you only focus on fine margins, you have no clue. Then you have no clue. If you're in a fight, people, and you get battered, you're going into a punch up. Do you focus on, I got a punch in, I hit him in his leg, but then there's this and that. This is why you need to play well. It's a 90-minute game. There's no point focusing on unnecessary positives, which I think we do. And for my manager as well, Mikel Arteta, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel aggrieved about the ref. And he might be telling the boys something different, but it does feel like he neglects away from variables we can control, i.e. our good performance. Like with the red card against Wolves, like with yesterday, he focuses on things I believe he doesn't need to focus on. And even when we've won games, it's been shaky. Like against Chelsea, we can see the shaky goal. Leeds, it could have went different. Leicester, we went a goal behind. So it's a poor one, people. Again, forgetting all of that. Where's the Twitter account? Or 1 second, people. Let me find the Twitter account, because we can wrap this up with some statistics and all of those sort of things, people. Looking at it again. Sorry, people. This just says it all, people. In Arsenal's last 4 Premier League away, in Arsenal's last 4 away games, people, the first goals have all been conceded from errors. So again, at a time where people say away games don't really mean much, and I actually feel as an Arsenal fan, we're better away from home than at home. How much of that makes sense? Because in the last 4 games, 4 different mistakes, and that's not coincidences. Personally, I don't think you can attribute that to Leno. I think that's Xhaka. He's called for the ball. Make sure your touch is spot on. Leno shouldn't give him the ball. So again, I'm not saying he's faultless, but I think that's them. Default said Gabriel, this is what I mean about the sequences of play. If you look at the Wolves mistake where it's David Luiz, you look at Holding and Bellerin in the build-up. That's not Gabriel's fault, but Gabriel, it's Cedric's fault, but Gabriel in the build-up. Holding's not followed his run as well. Xhaka and Marie's forgotten El Nene. Xhaka's lost the ball. Marie and El Nene could cover the space a bit better. Even, what was it? Was it against... Did we have a shaky result again? Who did we have a shaky result against? Villa, where again several players aren't being highlighted. So it's poor sequences, as poor as Xhaka. That one is Xhaka's fault, but Leno could have got rid. But it's no coincidences. Last 4 games, four mistakes. And the concerning thing, with the exception of Gabriel, who wasn't the main perpetrator for it, and Marie, who wasn't the main perpetrator, the Leicester one, these are experienced players. We've been knowing where we're at with David Luiz. Fair play, Cedric's played well, but he's one of them that will show you how good he is. These men are not gonna, do anything. They're not even mid-table players, really and truly. I'm not even getting at Cedric with that one. It's players that have played in the Premier League, playing week in, week out, played for their country, played in top leagues. If you can't sort out certain things by yourself, you never can. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scores a lot of goals against Burnley anyways, people, and he has scored more goals against Burnley than any other opponent with 8. Arsenal are unbeaten in our last 7 trips to turf, more in all competitions, people, and we're unbeaten in our last 9 there in the league. However, we've only won 4 and drawn 5, people, in such which is quite mad. Willian has now recorded the joint most assists of any player this season in all comps. And to be fair with you, Willian did get another assist. It's been quite the last, you know. Leicester was good for him. Benfica was good for him. Obviously, his assist has helped out a lot, but it's still an assist. You know, again, how you start games. There have been 7 goals in the opening 15 minutes of our last 8 games in the Premier League. Coupled to that, the lack of clean sheets. This is something in our preparation or our inability to focus, which I believe these players can't focus. You know, these players will play well for decent, but when played well on a decent thing, but when it's crunch time, it's poor. You know, it really is poor. And again, game management, that's the constant theme. That's the one point I want you lot to take from this. Game management. First 10 to the last 10 has to be accounted for. No point saying we was good for 20, but it's only 1-1. Only West Brom and Brighton have conceded more goals between the 39th minute and half time than Arsenal. You know, this tells you where we're at. Brighton have been up and down. West Brom are fighting relegation. This tells you where we're at, people. 21% of all goals we have shipped have come just before half time. Game management. You know, Xhaka didn't have the best of games in either Burnley game. You know, 33 of the points Burnley have earned this season have come against Arsenal and Crystal Palace. That tells you everything. They've drawn their last 5 games at Turf Moor. Arsenal have taken 4 points from our last 4 away games, people. And we could have taken 12 if there wasn't mistakes. But coulda, woulda, shoulda, can't be factored in. We've got these mistake-ridden players. They're playing. Must admit, I wasn't a fan of Match of the Day and what they did with Lacazette. Especially, I expected a bit better from Ian Wright as well. I understand, you know, I love Ian Wright. He's our uncle and stuff. I understand your contractual pay. I understand you're contracted. I understand we all have to make a bit of a money and that. But I think I would have expected a bit more class from Ian Wright, especially. Definitely not from Gary Lineker, who, you know, is pooed on a pitch and them thing there. But only Southampton and Newcastle have dropped more points from winning positions than Arsenal this season since Mikel Arteta was appointed. Southampton can be described as an up and down club. They're not gaining any plaudits right now because they're steadily sinking into a top 4 a battle to remain in the top division. Newcastle as well. So this tells you everything. You want to be around them clubs, you're in problems. We've scored the fewest goals in the final 15 minutes. So this tells you there's not really any fight. We've conceded the joint fewest second half goals, which means nothing for me, people, because our bed is already made in that. You know, since 16-17 seasons, Xhaka has made more errors leading to goals than any other outfield player in the Premier League. And no matter what, you can't have guys like that in your squad beyond the squad player. He cannot be a main player for you over a 38-game period, forever main straight. This tells you where you're at. And if he is going to be it, he's in problems. And I'm a bit concerned because Mikel Arteta, you as a midfielder, and you can't see how colossal this midfield is. Fair play. You know, Burnley have conceded the most goals of any Premier League team in the opening 15 minutes of matches this season, which means we've done all right. You know, Willian seems to love lunchtime kickoffs this season, and he's got 4 assists in 3 of those games, people. Only 8 players have more goal assists in the Premier League this season than Willian's 5. I'm sure James Rodriguez, he's overtaken James Rodriguez in that sense, people. So, yeah, man, the only positives, like I could say, for me would be Callum Chambers, considering he's been out for a long time. He had a decent game. And the fact that we scored in the 6th minute and within 5 or 6 passes, apart from that, there is no positives. There is no fight. I never learnt fight. I never learnt game management. I didn't learn this team's ability to break down low blocks. I haven't learned anything more in relation to the manager's competency for making changes when required, starting the right personnel when required. A lot of baffling decisions, really and truly. And we're at where we're at, people. This is why, for me, I just live week to week as an Arsenal fan and just look at it. You know, you can't have ambition. This team's a mid-table club, and they found a way to even upset you in that regards. And for me, what upsets me the most, not that anybody likes losing. If Burnley were to just be the better men, the better 11, what could you say? We've handed it to them. It feels like a loss. I keep saying loss because it is a loss. It's a drop of points. We've handed it to them. We've shared. We're Santa Claus all year round, but that's all I've got to say, people. I'm going to get out of here, man. On that note, please make sure you hit the like button. That's it for my tactical review. Please make sure you hit the like button. I'll be back before you know. People, DG.